Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast after a nice long break. I'm, of course, FPL Nima, and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton at Clayt's AFC on Twitter. So we're here to review the 22-23 Arsenal season, look at how we went, some star performers, any disappointments, early look at the transfer window and expectations going into next year as well. But first and foremost, welcome back, Clayton. It feels like it's been a lifetime.
It has been a long, long time. Yeah, it's good to be back, to be fair. And I think, obviously, we were all disappointed how the season finished. I think the last pod we did was maybe it was around like the Newcastle Chelsea game. So obviously we missed quite a lot. But yeah, we've all had time to digest things, and yeah, it'll be good to see where we're both at headspace wise. Because I know I was depressed, man. I was so depressed. Um,
It's
how it
very
all finished.
disappointing, wasn't it, how it ended?
Yeah, but like now that it's gone, and like I'm over it, and I'm ready to go again next season. But yeah, I think it will be good to kind of have a talk through how we both feel, talk about how the season went, like you said, and a bit of a look forward to next season. But we should clarify, we didn't stop podding because we fucked it. We did stop because of work, but let's just say we were both so down, we didn't go out of our way to make it happen.
Yeah, I know. Like, and there was a lot going on with work, and it was kind of like, are we really gonna push Arteta in the day job just to come on and talk about how disappointed and miserable we felt? But we've gotten over it now, I think, and we're excited for the future. I think all in all, I think what we wanted to start with was just giving like an overall season rating out of 10 and maybe some
Yeah,
thoughts around the highs and lows of it, right? And I think now that I've had time for the dust to settle, I definitely do see it as a successful season of growth
same.
and improvement still. So despite all that drama and the upset at the end, I'm still very happy with Arteta, with the boys, and I hope we can kind of build from here and that this, as many are assuming, I hope this isn't like a one-off season as many are claiming it to be.
Go on then. Should we go straight in for it? Do you want to give your rating? And people in the chat, I've seen Delia's in. Hey, Delia. Nice to. She said super
Yeah, thanks for
Clayton. She met
tuning in.
super young Clayton. She met. That's nice to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. All of us are feeling old compared to you and your baby face.
But yeah. Anyone in the chat, just give us a rating out of 10. How you felt the season was as well. 10 being the best, obviously. But yeah, go for it. What would you give it out of 10?
Um, I think if you asked me this in April, I would have probably gone like a 9 or 10, but it has
Yeah.
diminished to I'd say an 8 at best, maybe a 7.5, just
Okay.
because it happened twice at the end of two seasons.
Yeah.
So I'd
Fair.
say 7.58. I don't
Okay.
know where I quite land. It's between 7.5 and 8 for me. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm similar, and I think the way I'm gonna try assess it is, I think the way you have to assess your objectives is based on what your actual. Sorry, the way you have to assess how a season went is against your actual objectives, and if that's in mind, I think we completely blew it out of the water. But of course, like you say, the way it finished, and if you're talking in April, well, March, April, then of course it's disappointing that we didn't go the distance, right? But I'm going to go 8. I just think pre-season, like you and I were so bullish on top four. I don't think, and most Arsenal fans don't think it was a question. Like we all knew we would do 75 points, and yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of living under a rock outside of Arsenal circles. But I think we kind of shifted our potential expectations as the season went on, right? And then 50 points after 19 games is like crazy. So you know what? I said I'm over it. And now as we started speaking about it, I'm getting like anxiety in my chest again.
I remember
Uh,
pre-season actually when we talked about kind of our expectations for for this season, and I remember we were both kind of saying that like, top four would be like what we absolutely need for it to be a success. We were kind of saying, third isn't a lock in for Spurs. People thought they were locked in for third. You were saying you thought that was a load of bollocks. Turns out you were right.
yeah.
Um, and at the time, no one really thought second was even feasible. So that wasn't even in our mind. We were kind of talking about third being the ceiling for the team.
Yeah.
We didn't see how we would get close to 100 goals that Arteta spoke about, which we ultimately got close to. Um, you were hoping we'd get 75 plus points. I don't think we expected to get to the points tally we did.
My stretch target that I said was I thought we could put together 85 points, but I thought that was an absolute stretch target, like best
mm,
case scenario. And we fell short. We got 84, but I think more the point I was trying to illustrate back then was I thought we'd have the consistency, and we kept talking about raising the technical floor of the team, right? Or was it the ceiling? Either, both. And I felt like we did that. So now it's about going and doing that again next season. But I don't think we're a 75-point team now. I think we've moved beyond that. And so I guess that's why I think for me this season, obviously you can't ignore how it ended, but if you are to just ignore it and kind of look at the whole season in a wider holistic view, I think it's been absolutely phenomenal. Like when Arteta took over, if you said we'd be challenging a team that's probably going to win the treble in 3 years, you'd laugh yourself out of the room, right? So I think it's kind of remembering all of this in context. And the biggest thing is everything we're doing is sustainable. This is not a flash in the pan like people want you to believe. And I'm not ranting today.
no. I think the other thing is the reason I gave it a 7.5 rather than maybe an 8 is, and I think Didier touches on this about the cup competitions. Like, if we were just looking at the Premier League season, I'd go as high as a 9, like she has said. But
Yeah,
considering kind of how we played in the other competitions and the last 2 months in the Prem, I think that's where the downgrade comes from. Because when we spoke about wanting top 4, we did also discuss that we really wanted to mount a Europa League challenge, and
we did.
obviously
Yeah,
that we did not even come close to that. And the way we fell apart, our heart wasn't in it in that game where we got knocked out, and we lost 2 major players to injury. We lost like Saliba plus the Plan B and Tomiyasu, and in a way that dictated the rest of our season. So it was really upsetting that we kind of let that happen. I think it's like we kind of tried to go for it, but then we didn't.
yeah.
So it's a bit like
And
there was a bit we were half-hearted in there. Like Arteta wants to win everything, and I'm not sure that message got kind of sent down to the players in that Europa League knockout game.
yeah, it's weird because he absolutely makes it clear that he wants to win everything. But you're right, it doesn't come across in the Europa team, and that's where I actually think being in the Champions League next year is actually going to suit us better because I think we got into such a first team, second team mindset, and it was so hard for players to slot into the Europa team and kind of showcase their ability. You saw it with Nketiah and then Nketiah in the first team. And I think in the Champions League, we're probably only going to be making 2 or 3 changes at a time rather than changing the 5, 6. And I'm hoping that rhythm and fluidity will be a bit slicker, I guess. But yeah, it's disappointing because when we went out of the Europa League, obviously I was annoyed, but once I got over that, I thought, yeah, okay, we've got 1 game a week for the rest of the season. Should have done us a favor, but it didn't
We
work
thought it
out
was
that
going to be
way.
a positive, right? So I think it's the way we went out, and it didn't actually end up benefiting us. That was my disappointment in terms of highs and lows. So we've given like a score. What's your kind of main high and your main low of the season, I suppose, before we go into like individual players? Like we won't talk about top 3 like standout performers or disappointments yet, but just general highs and lows, maybe
Yeah,
moments of matches or
I think lows, that City game away, that sucked the life out of me. Yeah, that just felt. I can't remember the context of who we were playing in and around that. Was that City game after Liverpool, West Ham, and all of that?
yeah. It was after we'd already gone and kind of drawn all
Yeah.
3 games.
Okay. So yeah, I've just gone back and looked. Yeah, you're right. It was the 3 draws and then that City game. So I think to be honest, that City game was a low, but I think I had like a gradual low over those few weeks because I remember Liverpool, I was pissed off because I know in the end we hung on for a draw, but I will maintain that 30 minutes it was in our control and we fucked it. So yeah, I'd say my low point was kind of that fortnight spanning basically April. April was low. I genuinely felt really down. I remember that. Yeah, and I think the City game just was the kind of final nail in the coffin for me where we've been so good all season and we got there and we just got completely schooled. It was boys v men. It felt like 13 v 11 players and yeah, I struggled. That was my low. My high though, I will there were a lot. Like this team gave us amazing highs this season, like the Nelson goal against Bournemouth, Jorginho against Villa, the North London derby, the Nketiah goal against Man United. Like this has been my favourite season following the club as an adult, and like better than the seasons where we won the FA Cup. And I was lucky; I was there for all 3 of them against Hull, Chelsea, Villa. Uh, and obviously the other Chelsea one was COVID, so none of us were there. But still, like this season for me as a match going fan, I've been blessed. I've been so grateful to be in there, and it's a shame it didn't amount to anything in terms of silverware to show for it. But we all know the direction we're heading. But if I had to pick one high, um, it sounds weird that it wasn't the North London derby because we hadn't won there in a while, but it was the Man United game for me. And I think the context of that last minute winner, I know the Nelson one's like the obvious one, but I think by the time the Nelson one had happened, in that moment and wider context, I thought we were going to go on and do it anyway. The United one was the first moment I started to like think we're going to do it.
Mm.
So I think that's why, in the moment, that's why that was my high.
Yeah, no,
What
that's
about
really
you?
interesting. I guess just thinking of my lows. So yeah, I do feel that the kind of the last City game, that being able to so clearly see the gulf in quality between the clubs, despite all the improvement of how far we'd come, is the third City game I'm referencing as well, the one at the Etihad. So we'd obviously played them in the cup at
Yeah,
home. We played them in the league at home. We looked like we competed in those games despite
yeah,
losing. But this third one, that was my low of the season because just I think it's like what you said. It's like kind of coming into it off the back of those disappointing results, and then the whole world was watching this. This was like touted to be the biggest game of the season in the Premier League, like, and ultimately it did become a title decider, right? I hate to think of it like this, but we finished 5 points behind in the end, and
yeah.
had we beat City once in the two league games, is my maths right? We would have won the league.
No.
Just beat City one, yeah. Because think about it,
Would-
they would have
Oh
lost the
well,
three points they gained on
re-
us.
only reason I'm saying no is because like they lost against Brighton and Brentford, but it was done
So
already,
you
right?
reckon they
So
wouldn't have been so done by the end if we'd won
yeah.
one game against them?
But I get your
It's the
yeah,
butterfly effect. But when you look at it on paper, like obviously in
yeah,
reality, the butterfly effect changes things. But in reality, you look at that and you think, you told me at the end of the season that like we just had to win that game. It's disappointing that we won neither of them. And my biggest,
yeah,
and it's not a low, but it's just a disappointment, is obviously like we never really got to play them in the league with
yeah.
like our
With a full
first
strength.
team 11. And I wish we could have seen what we would have done going against them. Maybe the golf and class would have looked smaller. In terms of my highs, my highlight of the season is definitely it's what you said. Like I think as someone who goes to the stadium, and I was fortunate to go a few times this year, I can't remember ever just having such a good time. Like just being so connected to my fellow fans, the club, the players, the staff, the chef in the fucking kitchen. Like everyone feels so connected. Like I've never seen. I begun to believe again. That would be my final concluding
Yeah,
thought. My highlights. Like I haven't felt like I could believe like this in decades. I don't think. Like we've had some
no,
FA Cup wins. We've had some seasons where we maybe could have won a league. I think there was like 2008. There was 2016. There were some opportunities here and there. But this was the first time I genuinely began to believe again. And all the haters came out, right? And they only hate you when you're doing well. So that
yeah.
was a big sign to me that like we're doing better than I predicted this season because all the haters have come out the woodwork.
Yeah, spot on. And I think the biggest thing I'll keep saying is when we appointed Arteta in, when was it? December 2019, right? What were we all thinking? This is going to take us years to be consistent top four challengers, let alone challenge the best team I think the Premier League has seen and push them to the wire. And I think that's where every Arsenal fan and every Arsenal fan knows the kind of trajectory where we're headed. And you just have to see the scenes after the Wolves game full time, right? Like every person staying back to sing his name and Arteta doing that speech. And it's one of those people, like, remember everyone took the mick out of Klopp when they kind
Mm.
of celebrated the draw against West Brom and stuff. And I was probably guilty of it back then, to be fair. But you can see the wider context of what everyone could see they were heading in a certain direction. And that's why again, I'm so confident in this. You know how we came out of the blocks this season, and neutrals kind of had us fourth, most of them fifth, and we took everyone by surprise. It's going to happen again next year, and people are like, "Oh my god, this team's so good," blah blah blah, and then they'll label us as bottlers, this that. But yeah, everything about this is sustainable, so no dramas.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of then players, because obviously we talked about moments, but it'll be good to
Yeah,
talk about your kind of, I guess, your top three players of the season. Like who were they? Was it anyone that you didn't expect to make it to your top three that did last year when we spoke about them? I remember Tomiyasu made his way into that top three, I
Yeah,
think,
he
for both
did.
of us. So it's crazy how obviously he didn't really get to play much of a part this season, apart from shutting down Salah at the Emirates. But that was a pretty epic performance, I must say.
Yeah, players of the season's hard because there's so many. I think Odegaard's probably top for me. I did not picture him. Did he finish on 15 goals in the
15
season?
league goals, yeah.
And it was all non-penalty like that. I did not expect
Yeah.
that. And I know we were talking about goals from like a number 8. I thought whoever played at left 8 would be a bagsman. I didn't think that would end up being Granit Xhaka. So I think he's
We
up
all
there.
thought we were going to get an upgrade for him.
Yeah,
No one thought he'd come out and have the season he did. I think he had 7 goals and 7 assists in
seven.
the Premier League in the end. And
Yeah,
Bruno Fernandes had 7 goals and 8 assists. So
is
make
it?
of that what you will.
Yeah, I mean, like fair play to him, and obviously we were talking about this. Where was it at Meets or something? We were saying about how Arteta kind of challenged him to improve himself, and then he went away, trained, came back for preseason 4 kilos lighter, and he mastered that role, right? And yeah,
He
shame he's
honestly was so good.
yeah, but yeah, sorry, I'm waffling. So I'd say Odegaard, Xhaka, and then like names are obviously Saka, Martinelli, Ben White. Partey had periods where he was unplayable, but then dipped off a bit when it really mattered. Gabriel has been incredible. Zinchenko's redefined how we play. I'm like, how the fuck do you just pick
Yeah, like
3?
Saliba like came
So-
in to the country for the first time and played with such maturity and an aura around him that like I don't
yeah,
even understand. Like at 20, I know that Saka and Martinelli are young, but like Saliba is a centre back. Like that age is like way younger than they are as wingers. As
it's
wingers at
scary.
21, there's loads of great wingers around the world who are 21. There's very few centre backs who are 21
And I
playing like
know,
that.
honestly, I'm struggling. I think I'm
Even
going to be a cop.
Gabriel, right?
I
Like he
know.
at the start of the season, we were quite, we were talking about constructive criticism or some mistakes in his game, but he kind of channeled that aggression and ended up coming out of the World Cup maybe our better centre back.
Yeah, no, no, that's what I'd said as well. I completely agree. I actually thought after the World Cup he was comfortably our best centre back and just wider defender. But I'm really struggling to pick 3. So I'm going
3 is hard, isn't it?
Odegaard, Xhaka. I'm going, and then I'm going to be a bit of a cop out and not say Jesus or Saliba because they got injured. So that helps get rid of a couple. Ben White, I think, is up there, but I think I'm going to go. It's between Saka or Martinelli, and I'm gonna go Martinelli. I feel like they kind of. It's so hard. It's literally like 51, 49%. I feel like Saka, we all kind of know how good he is, and he's had moments where he scored decisive goals and stuff. And then I just felt like towards the end of the season, he just started to dip the tiniest bit, and I feel like just over the course of the season, Martinelli added quite a lot to his game again. He just locked down that left wing position. Trossard came in, and I think he went up again another level.
Every
So
time
yeah,
he's had competition, he's like risen to that challenge, hasn't he?
yeah,
I do
but
think for me, Martinelli would definitely be in my top 3 as well. I think he's going to surprise people in the Champions League. I think in the Champions
same.
League, he's the perfect player for that style of
Seen a
football.
few people
There's
say
more
that.
open space, right? Like it's a bit like
Yeah,
international football. There's like more open space. There's more counter attack and transition. I think he's going to be
he's
killer
going to
out
be
there.
our CR7, isn't he?
He's going to set the Champions League alight. And I think a lot of people in Europe who haven't watched him much are going to be pleasantly surprised by his abilities and his mentality, first and foremost, to
Yeah,
constantly strive improvement in himself. I think definitely Odegaard and Martinelli make it in. For me, no matter how much better Xhaka played, I feel like Saka has to get in there. So I have to just put him in. I think it's almost like we underestimate just how good he is because he was our player of the season for the 2 seasons prior to this,
yeah,
when he was 19 and when he was 20. Now he's 21. It's almost like, oh, come on, like we can't keep giving him these kudos third year now. Like he's played so many games that we know him already. Like he's great, but it's actually crazy
I
that like
know.
we are like we almost acknowledge him as a world class level player with his decision making, especially, and yet he's in his infancy as
Yeah,
a like he's nowhere near his prime. So that's why I just have to include him in there again.
It's
But
a really
I do
good
think
way
it's
of.
nice you put Xhaka in though. I think he does deserve this kudos on his way out.
No, but you're right, and the way you phrased it is so true. Like I've just taken Saka for granted. I was just like, yeah, and that's what he does, right?
He's just like we
Whereas,
just expect him. Whereas the
yeah,
others, like we thought Odegaard stepped up, Martinelli stepped up another gear, Xhaka stepped up another gear, right?
yeah,
Ben White stepped up. They all stepped up a gear, but it's like with Saka, it's almost like we never doubted that he could keep stepping
no,
up and keep going, and like
no, it's
we
a really good
knew, like
point.
we felt he would become one of the world class players out there, and because we almost expect him to be able to do it, like we've not acknowledged that, like, but this is wild. Like, how many 21-year-olds do this? Like, I know there was some
No,
inconsistency at the end, as you say,
yeah,
and
the
I think young players, there's
tiniest bit
always
though, right?
inconsistency. Yeah, it's
And I
the
think that was,
tiniest bit, right?
and that was because he was flogged to death as well. Like I think, I
So he
really hope
played
we,
3,000, I think it was maybe nearly 3,500 Premier League minutes.
yeah,
And when you look at Man City's attackers, so Mahrez, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Alvarez, Grealish, most of them played about 2,000 minutes, a
yeah, that's
solid
wild.
1,500 minutes less. So we didn't have like that. We didn't get the Rafinha last year, right?
No,
Whenever Nelson was injured at times when maybe Saka could have done with a rest, Jesus was injured, he could have played right wing. So
yeah.
all in all, we didn't really have the opportunities to rest
We
him. And I
got
think
unlucky
he,
with our combination of injuries, didn't we? Even in
yeah,
defence, when Saliba went, so did Tommy.
or like
And it's
Eddie and
like,
Nelson both out. And then it's
yeah,
like, oh, but Jesus isn't back yet. So it's like, so who do we have left?
yeah.
It was all a bit mad the way the injuries piled up. But the reason I just think that honestly, like when you look at how much he played, I almost think Arteta's done this as prep for like playing 3 games a week next year.
Yeah, agreed.
He wants him to have that mentality. And did you see the Saka interview where he was getting kicked around and he was kind of like, there's no point like complaining to the refs. He's like, it happens to all the best players. Like he was just
Is
like,
that what he
I
said?
just need to get up and carry on. He was like, I'm just learning how to like get stronger. And you noticed he was always labeled as like the nice guy. And you could see at some point in the season,
It switched a
you
bit.
started to see a bit like that almost arrogance start to come through that some of the
Yeah.
most elite players in the world have, like the types of the Thierry Henry arrogance and the Messi, Ronaldo arrogance, those kind of players. And I was very happy to see that switch in his head slightly of not just being the nice guy who's everyone's little brother, because that's how the England players see him, right? Like everyone's
Yeah.
little brother. So I think it was good to see that little switch in him, and I hope he takes that to the next level again next year.
Again, that's a really good point because with the England team and the little brother thing, because him and Grealish and Shaw off the pitch, they seemed like best friends. And in the England camp, they're always together. And there were a couple games against City and United where they were all kind of going for each other.
It got feisty, right?
It did, didn't it? Yeah. So I was happy to see that as well because I didn't think he had that in him.
I honestly, I just thought he was always going to be this like great boy, like God's child, like reading the Bible before every match and every night before bed. I just didn't know he had that dog in him, as they say. But he brought it out, so good to see. What about in terms of disappointing players? Was there anyone who disappointed you? I've got here 3 disappointing players of the season, but I think it might be harsh to list 3 people.
It sounds harsh, right? But
Yeah,
okay, so
it's almost like we're picking them just for the sake of getting to 3.
you know how on Arsenal Vision they do like stock fallings? Should we just do that instead?
Maybe
Like,
it's that. It's like who, yeah. So rather than a
because like
disappointing season, it's
there's
more like
3 names
who
that
were we
come to,
really high on, and actually the way the season
yeah.
unfolded, they didn't quite show out what we were expecting.
Because when you phrase it like that, there's 3 that immediately come to mind. I was really disappointed with Vieira this season, and
Okay,
if I'm being completely honest, I remember the Sporting Lisbon away game. Obviously, I was there, and I remember in the stadium, I was saying to my friends, Andrew and Mark, that I was with, like, I don't see it with this guy. If I'm being completely honest, and like, I'll probably look at it next season, but I'm just being completely honest. I don't see it with him. I think even the Brentford away game, my unpopular opinion is he didn't play as well as everyone made out. He just scored a banger and everyone said he played well. But I remember watching that game thinking the pockets that Odegaard usually occupies, Vieira was quite, what's the word? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but he wasn't proactive in his movement and stuff. He didn't try to demand to get on the ball enough. And that, yeah, since then I've had a little seed in my head that's been growing, and I think he hides too much. I think,
I
like,
know
fair enough.
you've been doubting him. You've been quite consistent with that doubt. So it's not like you
Yeah,
switched on him. Like you've spent a whole season waiting and hoping he can prove you wrong, and thus far he hasn't shown you enough to
yeah,
feel
and like,
that maybe like there's something there for him next year. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, if he comes good, then I'll hold my hand up. Like, I'll be delighted with that. But the Wolves game away, he came on and he did brilliant. And like, I think he got 2 assists for both goals. But that's it's been moments, and I just think for me, I need more than just he's got a good final ball. Like
Because I
we're
think we
not
said
that.
this. We said that he's very he's good at racking up goal assists and being at the top end of the pitch and just being involved in that final ball in or something. He does seem
Yeah,
to have that in him, but I guess what your concern is that he doesn't seem to add much to like
I don't think
the
it adds
team play
anything
and
to the
build up
wider
play.
game. No,
Yeah,
personally.
like if
So
he's
that
there and if he's in the position in the final third, you get him the ball. Yeah, he'll probably deliver it well,
yeah,
but
but
it's
we
kind of
need
like
more than that.
we need more. Yeah, we need more.
Yeah, and I guess like to the similar point in kind of end product, like look at Trossard. He's been an end product machine since we got him, right? Especially with assists, but he adds so much to the wider team as well. And I feel like it's that qualitative stuff where, yeah, sure, the quantitative side of things, yeah, you'll look, his output's fantastic, but I just think there's so much more that he can be adding, and I've been really disappointed with him, being honest. And then the other two are Tommy and Smith Rowe, and obviously that's injuries, right? I think Tommy, like
Mm.
you said, he was in our top 3 last season, and he was fucked by injuries, and he would have been so useful so in so many stages of the season, and I think he's going to be so crucial to us in the Champions League. I think we'll see him used a lot in different game states. And then Smith Rowe, I remember in like January when we played, was it Oxford? And he came off the bench, and we were all thinking, okay, yeah, he's back. And then that didn't quite materialize. And then he got injured again, and then he came back, and he just didn't quite get the run in the team. But he's supposedly in the Arteta slow cooker. It looks like he's staying. He's retraining in the 8. So hopefully he just has a nice rest. He comes back to as a full
Full
preseason,
preseason is
and we
key.
see the
Yeah.
best of him again. So that's my 3. What about you?
Just before I give my 3, quick couple shout outs as well to some of the guys who've joined since we said hi to Delia on the live.
Awesome.
So we've got Dream Team Professor. Thank you for tuning in, buddy. Good to see you. Hope you're enjoying the summer. Christopher Tellers as well. Good afternoon, mate. I am starring your questions. I think I'm
Yeah,
going
hey
to
guys.
start with Smith Rowe as a disappointment for me as well, or stock falling. Um, and I think rather than keeping this question for the Q&A at the end, because it is about Smith Rowe, I'll just cover it now as part of why he's a disappointment for me this season, and kind of also to get to Dream Team Professor's question. For the podcast listeners, he asks, what are your thoughts on Smith Rowe next season? Do you think he will get back into playing regularly for us? Desperate to see him back performing. Because my disappointment with him was that just it was more that I was worried that he was also going to go. So I thought he was like
Yeah.
so out of the manager's plans because, Vieira was getting on ahead of him every game when we needed something. He was, I don't know how many minutes he played in the Prem, but it's almost non-existent this year.
Yeah.
And, from the year before where he was our top Premier League goal scorer to that is a stocks falling season, if you ask anyone, I think.
Yeah.
And, he was given the number 10 shirt. He took that mantle and worked hard and did amazingly that first year. And this year was just really upsetting. But I think the caveats around it and why I do think we will see him playing regularly for us in terms of the question from the chat is he had surgery for something that he'd been carrying for years. Like he had this injury for like 3-4 years, I think. And he'd been playing with pain for years.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that like they were talking about how he had like growing pains, and I know it was a groin surgery. So when I saw the photos of him back in training in the second half of this season, he was standing next to some of the centre backs, I think like Gabriel and stuff, and he looked the same height as them, and they're like
Yeah, I
six.
remember you saying about that.
Yeah, they're like 6'2" or something. And I'm like, I remember Smith Rowe being like 5'9".
Yeah.
So I'm like, so when did this spurt
He's a
come?
kid,
Like,
right?
yeah, like okay, so when the hell did this growth spurt come from? Like, what is going on? So yeah, all in all, I just think that the type of injury he had, I have a feeling that it wasn't that Arteta didn't trust him. It was similar to what happened with Martinelli when he came back from the long-term injury. So everyone thought Martinelli needed a loan, that he wasn't, favoured by Arteta. Arteta didn't like him because they were like, why is he not being used despite being back from injury for so long? And he just kind of like retrained him and the way he thinks and how he should play the position and waited and waited and waited to avoid any recurrence of any problems. And I'm optimistic that this is what's happened with Smith Rowe, that he's felt, I'm not going to risk this young man's future career by rushing this, and we're just going to wait. And if he's not 100% ready to give 120% in every game at the level we're playing at, I'm not bringing passengers onto the pitch to play for me.
Yeah.
He's got to prove himself all over again. and what he did yesterday doesn't count. It's what he does in training now. And I think with a full preseason ahead of him this summer, and the talks of now Fabrizio's come out and said he's not going anywhere. Um, like that really, that's what made me happy, because I was
Yeah,
honestly so concerned that he would just be made way to get some money to bring people in.
same.
And I do not want to see that. I want to see him given that chance. I do think he has been trained to play as an eight. There's talks of obviously Arteta was apparently the one who converted David Silva from a winger to an eight.
Is
So
it?
if that's the case, it sounds like it's the right man to be trying to convert Smith Rowe too, is my final thought on it. And the other disappointments, I won't spend much time on them, because they're not necessarily disappointments, but it's just the timing of the injuries, I think is what you say. So like the whole
Yeah,
Tommy Yasu he had that incredible game against Liverpool. I know he fucked it against City with the way he gave the ball away, but mistakes happen. And overall, that was a disappointment to me. Just I would love to think he's an option for us as like a backup centre back, a backup right back, a backup left back.
yeah,
But he has a lot of these injuries, like muscle injuries, and that's not changed over the last 2 seasons. So it kind of concerns me going forwards. And I think that's why maybe we may see a right back get signed this year. There's been talks of Fresneda, Sasha Bowie. I have a feeling that we are going to have to buy a right back, because I don't think Tomiyasu is going to be back until midway through
yeah.
the
It's
season.
September, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to be there for preseason. So I'm worried about his long-term future because of that. And then the third and final, I guess, stock falling player or disappointment. Just trying to think. Was Lokonga with us until January, or did he get loaned out at the start?
it was January. Yeah,
So was it January he got sent to Palace? He is definitely in my list then. Fucking hell. Okay,
yeah. Because
if he was in the squad, then my lord, yeah,
that's a
he's
good
in
one.
my list.
I forgot about him actually. That's a really good shout.
He just
Be
went under
interested
the
to see.
radar. And
Yeah,
like it's a shame, because obviously he was getting minutes at Palace under Vieira until Vieira got sacked, and then that kind of ended there. But it's a shame. But I don't. I would not be
yeah.
surprised if he got sold this summer. Is putting it
No,
lightly.
yeah, no. That's a really good shout. Yeah, because he had chances. He did have chances, and
He
he
had
stunk
chances.
out the Europa League as well.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So in terms of, let's talk about, I guess, transfers now, because I've touched on like
This is the
Sasha
fun bit.
Bowie, and this is the most exciting part because the window isn't even open
I
technically,
know,
and
and
the
it feels
rumor
like
mill is
so
in full
much.
swing.
Yeah, but have you seen Arteta's locked shit down in it? Nothing's coming out about, well, from official journals or anything. And I've said I think we're going to see so many more like Vieira and Tomiyasu-esque signings that just kind of come out of the blue. I think we're going to do that a fair bit. But yeah, transfer talk. Well, I guess rather than debate all the rumors, do you want to say who you think we will sell, and then what
Yeah.
you actually think we need? Not what you think we'll do, what you think we'll need.
Okay. I'm just having a look because I'd made a list actually. I'm just trying to find it, but I can't seem to get it handy too easily. So I think that there's a lot of players that we could sell. I think we will hopefully, if all goes well, I think we will move on. So Xhaka sounds like he's gone anyway. So I
Yeah.
think Xhaka will be gone.
I'm
I think
sad about
Otto,
that. Like
that I'm sad about. I would have liked to see him play in the Champions
I
League, right?
I just not even for sentimental reasons for me. I actually think as a squad player, because you know how I always talk about moving to like a squad of 16, 17. He is so perfect to have as the wider squad. Not to start every week, but I would be more than comfortable seeing him start like 8 to 10 Premier League games, a handful of Champions League games, domestic cup ones. I'd be happy with him starting 20 games out of the 50 and stuff. And I mean, I get it because it's not that simple. His wife wants to move back to Germany. He's not. He's an alpha male, right? Like he doesn't want to
Mm,
sit around and stuff on the bench. So I get it, but it's disappointing because he is someone that would be perfect for the squad for where we're heading. I think.
it's true. It's true. I am very upset he's going, but I think it's pretty much seems confirmed. So he's definitely on
Yeah,
that list. I think Lokonga, Nuno Tavares, Rob Holding. Um, it sounds like Balogun will go. Um, Whether him or Betty should go, I don't know, but I'm pretty confident one of them will go, and it's probably Balogun. Who else is there? Maitland Niles has been released. That's the end of that
yeah,
contract. So that's five now. We have.
Tierney, you think he's gone?
I think he's gone. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Tierney's gone. That's 6. I've only
I think
mentioned
out of
6.
this,
Pablo Mari's gone. That's confirmed
yeah.
because
I
Monza
mean, like
survived
out of the main,
relegation.
like kind of ignore those people that
But I
weren't
was thinking
really
about
involved.
raising money side of things. So like, how much
Ah,
money?
okay.
It's only a
You're
few
playing
million
accountant.
there. Yeah, because otherwise, like, because then the next question was, what positions do we need? So I think we can only get the players we need, e.g., 2 central midfielders, if there are enough sales made.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'd say that sounds about right. I'm confident we'll hold on to Nelson. I'd like to
yeah.
think we
I
can.
think all the rumors have been that he's almost signed a contract, no?
It seems to be, yeah. It seems like he's going to stay. I think it sounds like he was going to go. He's got a lot of interest. Likes of Brighton wanted him. Lots of German clubs. But I think we're going to
I
manage to hold on to him.
I've really liked what I've seen from him in cameos this season, and I know like he gave us the goal against Bournemouth, but I think it's been more than just that goal. He's got this burst and acceleration in him, and he's got the bravery to take people on that sometimes Arsenal lack. I think we're a bit lackadaisical with how we pass the ball
He's one of
sometimes,
the
and
few very direct players I noticed. You're right. He every time he got
yeah,
the ball, it felt like he was getting us up that pitch, taking his
yeah.
man on.
So I was kind of hoping he would stay, and I hope he gets trusted to share minutes more because I think
Mm.
that's my only slight criticism of Arteta. He's a bit too uh conservative with substitutions and rotating minutes, I think.
He
But
has like a
yeah,
very clear group that play most of the minutes. I think when we talk about our season, one of the things I saw was that like our 13th and 14th man, their minutes played in the Prem is like thousands of minutes below like City's 18th, 19th, and 20th
wow,
man. Like so,
doesn't
like
surprise me at all.
there was some players City had that they didn't even bring out till January. Man like Laporte and these guys, like they didn't even play football until like they're running. Like
Mahrez
certain,
goes through periods where he doesn't play 5 games. Foden was out for a while, like, and this is what we really. Like, I guess this is I guess this is perfect for now actually in
but
the
it's because
transfer
this is
topic. But
part of that. So it's like, who do we
yeah,
now want? So these are the players we're
exactly.
probably going to get rid of. But then, so how do we get to a place where we have more than 13, 14 he trusts? And B, why is it that after man 11, the minutes are so low? Okay, he
Yeah,
trusts 12, 13 players, but like, surely we can play them a bit more,
yeah, and this is where for
especially
me
with
it's
Champions League.
yeah. I want to get to a position next season where I'm comfortable with, I don't know, we've got Wolves at home and Saka's not going to play. And like, I would love to get to a position in our squad where we're unpredictable with our 11s. I think our starting 11 is great, but it's far too predictable. I don't want so many. Yep. I don't want to be able to next season pick 9 of our starting 11.
Just
I,
every week
I
without
yeah,
fail, yeah.
I want it to be a headache because then that indicates how strong your options are, right?
And it
The
also makes it
reason,
difficult for people to set up against us, right? Like we set up to play against Man City in a certain way, and they pulled out a system they hadn't used all season.
yeah,
We had
but
no
so
idea.
with that in mind, what do you think we need profile wise? Like, don't say names, just positions.
Yeah, so I think we need a backup centre back. We definitely need a backup centre back. A right-sided centre back at that. I think we need a backup fullback, whether that's right or left, or someone who's versatile enough to play both. I don't know, but that's at least 2 defenders right there. I think we need 2 central midfielders. I think maybe
Agree.
one that's more of like a party successor, like a 6, and we definitely need an 8 as well with Xhaka going. So Xhaka replacement. Um, we think we need a prolific, already proven winger, like when we were trying to go for Rafinha. I think we need, and I actually think we need that more than we need a striker, which is controversial because a lot of people want a goal scoring striker that's proven. But
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
only
on
if you
board with
think our
that.
wingers will dry it up, right? If you think Martinelli and Saka won't score like 15 goals again next season and you need the centre forward to carry that weight, sure. But I think we have goals across our team. And I
Yeah.
think actually the way our striker plays, Jesus, brings everyone else in. So I don't think that's a problem. I think it's
I
fine
think
to have
getting
Eddie
a
there as
centre
well.
forward is so low down on the priority
I
list
think
for
it's like
me.
6th in my list. Like I would still
Yeah,
take like the 2 CMs, the backup defenders, and even the winger ahead of the centre forward.
same.
And also, everyone's going for a centre forward this summer. If you look, so it's going to be really hard to get the right one. I think if we wait and let everyone else buy the centre forwards they want and the young centre forwards for the future they want, this is really crazy. But I think the following year we can come in and get Evan Ferguson from Brighton, and he will become our striker for the next 10 years, and he will become the
Interesting.
Irish Mbappe. So you heard it here first.
Big claim.
Big claim. Let them all go buy their random centre forwards, and while the market's all inflated, let them do that, and we'll focus on positions that we need. And then once they all have a centre forward and none of them are in for one, that's when we'll go knocking on Brighton's door.
Yeah, I'm. Is that your kind of list?
Yeah, I think that's the full list. I guess that would be how many new players? That's what, two defenders, two CMs, and a winger. So that's only really 5 players I've gone
5
for.
players. That's what I
But I
think we're
think
gonna
5
do
is
as
like
well.
a minimum. So my opinion is like we need 5 level raising players that are
Yeah,
as good as the first 11. So if you then get our first 11, add these 5 new players, that's 16. And then if you include the ones that were already here but not used enough this year, like Smith Rowe, Tomiyasu, Nelson, that takes us up to 19 players.
yeah,
So
and
I
that's
want
what
that. So that's the thing that we need to be there. We can't have 12, 13. We need 19. So we need
but
at
that's
least 5 very good.
and I think we're gonna do it. So what I think we need is maybe I think we only need one defender in personally, and I think the reason I say that is because I think towards the end of the season, the reason I think we need one defender is Arteta's started to actually tweak the system towards the end, and he's like one, especially once Zinchenko went out, like we kind of flipped the system, right? So it was like Kiwior was on the left and Partey was inverted from the right, and then Ben White went centre back, and I think he is going to look to get creative like that, and so I think we're going to get a versatile defender that similar to Tomiyasu profile wise, who can play basically anywhere across the back. And I think Arteta is going to look to adapt and evolve next season through systems more than individual players. So
He
I
said he's
don't
going
think.
to hit a reset, didn't he?
Oh, is it?
Did
I
you
don't
see
know.
that interview? So it was an
No,
interview where we were talking about like where we've got to in the project and like
right.
how this season was great. But the telling part was not that like, oh, we will build on this system next year. It was we're going to hit full reset
Yeah, and
and
this is
go
what I
again.
and
Like it's like
that's
the
a fair.
next level up. Yeah.
I hadn't even seen that, but as part of that, that makes sense, and I think that's how he's thinking. Is I don't think we're going to go and sign like a specialist right-sided centre half that's going to be back up to
Mm.
Saliba. I don't think Arsenal Football Club operates in that way in this modern world. I think it's all about like I always talk about it, people are probably boring about hearing it, but getting a player of a good quality that can cover multiple zones, and then that way you unlock things by playing different systems across different areas of the pitch. And so what I think we need is a versatile defender that can help unlock that. I'm with you. I think we need 2 midfielders, and I do think we're actually going to get Rice, to be fair. But I think we need 2 midfielders that can come in, hit the ground running. And then I think it's just a versatile attacker as well. Someone that, so I know you said like a specialist right winger. I just want someone that can ideally play across the front three. And I think someone like Trossard is there. I look at him as he's either a left winger or a false nine. I don't think he works on the right. Jesus, I think we've seen he can play on the right and it works well.
The thing is, we've
And
not really used him there, right? So I think that's
but we've
something that I
seen it a
wonder what.
little bit at the end,
Like
right?
he's drifted there, yeah. I think at the end we started to see that once we felt like it was lost, then we started trying all these new things
Yeah,
almost as
but
prep for next year, right?
exactly. But yeah, so that's what I think we need. I think ideally 5, I agree, but I think 4 would be fine as well, personally. Like get the versatile
I guess as long
defender
as
and
it's the right
attacker
level.
and 2 centre mids. And then yeah, I think that's a good enough base to start from. And then you've got someone like Tomiyasu coming back. And yeah, in terms of the reset, I do think I guess this maybe segues into like expectations for next
That's
season
a
and
good
stuff.
point, yeah.
But
But I guess just an early stab because with the window not even being open and not knowing whether the players we think will be sold, the positions we need strengthened do get strengthened, we'll probably want to do like another one, as you say, where we actually know
yeah,
who we've signed and we've seen some preseason matches and we have an idea of
yeah.
what's going on. But without knowing that we're going to buy any of these players, do you want to do it as like expectation for next season based on if
I
we had
guess
this exact current
expectations
squad
the wrong
or if
word.
we
It's
do
more,
make the improvements?
yeah, I think let's not say expectations, more like I guess what we think. Because where I'm coming from, I've got a very, very clear idea in my head of how I see the summer and next season going. And I think, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about this reset comment because I hadn't seen that before. But I think we're going to come out of the blocks and really surprise people. I think there's going to be big tweaks to our system. I don't think we're going to be playing the same way. And I think we're going to. So right now, we're a team that can comfortably beat most teams in the league and we dominate most of the games. I think we're going to go up a level in terms of our control and how we suffocate teams. And I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited. And in terms of points, last season I went into it thinking, okay, our floor is 75 points and the stretch target's 85, I'm going into this season thinking our floor is now an 80-point season and our stretch is 90, and hopefully more than that. And so, yeah, expectations is the wrong word, but I think we will be challenging for the league again. I don't think we're in a top four conversation, and it's like these fans outside of Arsenal circles that never pay attention to the underlying things that contribute to the outcome are all going to be in for a big shock again. So I feel confident. I think the Champions League is hard because there's so much variance in that, but I think we will surprise a few in Europe. I think across two legs we'll do, assuming we get out of the groups, I think we'll do well. I don't think we're going to be go out, embarrass ourselves in the first round of the knockouts again. Obviously, like, there's a high chance we could go out depending who we draw, but I don't think it'll be like the 10-2s and 8-2s that we used
Hopefully
to
those
have.
days are behind us. Yeah. I do think so. For me, like, not, I guess, as you say, not expectation, but what I want to see is I want to see us consolidate the top four going forwards. I don't want it to have to be a battle or a question of battling with other teams that are
Is
getting
that even
better.
a doubt in
I
your
want
mind,
us to
though?
be. I think with juggling Champions League, which will be a much higher level than what we played in this year, which we threw all of them basically and still couldn't keep up at the end. I think it will, if we don't
Interesting.
strengthen in the right way, I think we will falter in the league
I
because of
should
being in the
caveat,
Champions
by the
League.
way, my confidence is driven by the fact that I genuinely think we're going to smash our recruitment this season. I think we're going to get
Yeah,
it
so I
spot
think
on.
if we do, then I'd like to see that like we just are just back to being the way we used to be, which was like just top four was a given for many years under Wenger. And
Yeah.
that's like what I'm hoping we work towards. I've actually got the quote from Arteta on the future. He was asked about the future, and this is the full quote. He said, "We have a great foundation and we have become really competitive. But now I think it is time to press the reset button and go again. We have to be faster, more determined, and ruthless because the dimension that opens up now is bigger, but the margins are really small. So we have to be really smart." So it's like there's a
I just
lot
trust
to
him.
unpack in there. Yeah. Like I can tell
Yeah.
he knows what needs to be done, what the next stage is, he understands.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I just hope
really
he gets
hope he goes
backed
for it.
properly.
I think he will. It sounds like the Cronkies are going to really back him, and they have been for years now, right? We've ended up where we are now, ahead of schedule, thanks in part to people who we criticized finally backing us, I suppose. I used to always talk about getting him out. Like,
Yeah. But then,
like the Cronkies. I was always
okay.
like, Cronky out, Cronky out. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like my Twitter username for a while.
No, me too. But I guess just being devil's advocate, how many of the transfer targets that we've got were second and third choice, right? He had clear first priority and first choices.
No, but I think that's just
And
what he's not willing to overpay. So it's like they've
yeah,
said, like they could have paid. So I think Arteta himself does not want players, and Edu doesn't want players that aren't coming for the right reasons. Or it sounds like
fair
they
enough.
set a price these days, which is not what we used to do before. They almost
Yeah,
set a price, and it's the price we as a club are willing to go. And I don't think the Cronkies are the ones setting that price. I think it's Arteta,
fair enough.
Edu, and that team. Yeah, I reckon the Cronkies, they've just given their support, right? Like
Yeah.
to get Party, they essentially funded that release clause as a loan, so
Do
we
you know
could pay it.
how I'd simplify my confidence? If Arteta has a group of 16 to 18 players that he trusts every single one of them, I think we'll be challenging for all competitions next season. That's
Yeah,
where my level of confidence is at. But that's all determined by, does he get that group of players that he wholeheartedly trusts? That's the level of confidence I have in him. I think he's one of the best managers in the world. I genuinely believe
I
that.
think whether he
And
does it at Arsenal or not, by the time the guy retires, he will go down, as you say, as one of the best.
that's
I
what,
think,
yeah, I've said that for ages. And
and he's only 40 now, so he's got a long
yeah,
career
I
ahead of him.
think
He's just getting started.
he has got the all-round package. He's a great man manager. He's psychologically so switched on, and tactically he's so good. He's got his flaws, like he needs to work on stuff, but it's his first managerial job, and I think he's a quick learner. And I just feel so calm with him going forward. I pray we nail the transfer window, because I think we could really, really smash things. Have I told you about my potentially bullshit narrative I'm trying to push if City win the treble? Have I told you?
No, no. Well,
Okay.
that they'll put the foot off the gas next year.
Kind of. All right. So my BS narrative, if it's copium, who cares? I am saying that if City win the treble, so at this moment in time, I still think we're comfortably the second best team in the league. I know Newcastle will know Liverpool will improve. I know Man United will improve. Chelsea have too much to do, in my opinion. But those teams will improve. But why does everyone think we're going to improve too? Like, we, I don't get this. It's like, oh, yeah, other teams will improve. Well, yeah,
They're like,
no
this is it. We
shit.
blew our chance. You know what's
Yeah.
crazy? I thought it was just rival fans, but I met some gooners in the last few weeks that they're telling me they thought we peaked too, just like the Tony Adams quotes. They're like, this is
Mate,
the best we'll ever get it. I was like,
nah,
wow, like
not
you guys are Arsenal fans and you think that too. Wow.
no
Like,
way near, man. And like, I
but then I
think
said
this
to
is
them,
the
what
thing.
if we have a good window? And they're like, oh, if we have a good window, that's different. So I think the where it comes from is they don't believe we will have a good window. Whereas
Fair
perhaps
enough.
me and you do believe we will.
But even if we don't, these players are still so like I feel like the average fan only thinks a team can improve if you have signings. These players are so young, they will just naturally get better anyway. And like our manager is someone that's consistently trying to innovate and create new ways of improving that marginal gain, right?
Mm,
So yeah, but either way, back to my BS narrative. If City win the treble, I believe the margins at the elite level are so fine that I think in just pure human psychological nature, if you achieve that treble, you drop off 2-3% subconsciously. I don't believe you can maintain that same standard across a grueling campaign like they have
mm.
this season. So that if it's copium, who cares? But therefore, I think we're the second best team in the league, and we will hopefully be in a position to capitalize on that. But
I
if it's
think
BS,
so.
it's BS.
Let's take the questions. There's two questions from Delia in the chat. Why don't we take these and then we'll get out of here? So
Can I
what the
just ask
first
you
one?
one final
Yeah,
question
yeah, of course.
before we go on to it? So, assuming we have a good window, do you think we'll be in a title race considering we're balancing Champions League? And what do you think we can do in Europe?
So I think if we can get to the quarterfinals, I'd consider that a success. Um, and ideally, if while getting to the quarterfinals, we don't lose our second place, that would be huge. But with Liverpool, I think Arsenal and Liverpool, I think in the bookies odds, I think they're going to be up there for second. So it's going to be like Man City favourites, and then the odds for Arsenal and Liverpool to win the league will be quite good. I think there'll then be a bit of a drop, and then United and Newcastle will be the next highest odds, and then there'll be another drop, and Spurs and Chelsea will be down there
Yeah.
because I just think they're run too erratically with lots of short term thinking. Having said that, the new Celtic manager going to Spurs, like
Yeah, that's
they're going to a
annoyingly a
4 year
good
contract, right?
it's a good strategic appointment, that one.
Yeah,
But I
Levi
don't think
never
it
really
will
does
affect
that.
us.
But I don't think it will affect us within 1 year. But it shows that he's finally realised, Levy, that he can't follow the Chelsea model if he doesn't spend like Chelsea.
Yeah.
So he's finally planning to like back someone for a few years to do something, not give these 1 year contracts to everyone and
Yeah.
buy world class managers who just want to win now and don't actually plan a build. So annoyingly, it looks like he's made the right decision there for now. Chelsea boldly stepped back from football matters after spending 600 mil. So maybe they'll be run better now that like Poch is there as well. So these teams will get better, but I do think from just a bookies odds perspective, that the three that they will consider as most likely to challenge for the title will be Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. Hence why for me, success would be if we don't lose that second place to like whether City win, we win, or Liverpool win. I think those three are the favourites,
Yeah.
regardless of what happens this window. So if we can maintain second place, even once Liverpool get back good and they've bought players and they fix up from their bad year, and we get further in the Champions League, then I'd be very happy.
I'm
But
throwing it out there as well. I don't think this was just a bad year for Liverpool. I don't think they're going to bounce back as much as everyone else thinks. I think defensively they still have a lot to do. And
there's a lot of players
I
they
see
need
a
to
lot
spend.
of
And they don't normally
similarities.
spend a lot of money, do they?
I think they're very good in the transfer window, to be
Like they
fair.
buy
But
like they buy like what's the word, like reasonably priced players
yeah,
rather than going for those superstar 100 million signings. Like
I
they've had a
see.
few, but that's it. Like, Van Dijk and Alisson were like the big two rocks,
Yeah,
but they
but
don't like
like
go and spend like City and Chelsea.
Van Dijk is the one that the defense is still built around, and I think he's heading that way, not up that
Mm,
way. And I see a
yeah.
lot of similarities in Klopp and the end of Wenger's era. So yeah, that's my early shout.
I've got the YouTube open on my phone and it's like echoing our voices back to us, so that's confusing. But yeah, I think I'd take second and quarterfinal. I'd consider that success. If we finish like say fourth and don't make the quarterfinals, I would be very disappointed.
Same.
At
For me,
this point,
it's
we would
simple.
expect more now. Yeah.
For me, it's so simple. It's a title challenge, and title challenge, and go far in Europe if we can. That it's as
Yeah.
simple, and hopefully win a domestic cup.
Yeah. Cool. Let me take these two questions from Delia, and then we'll get out of here for our meetings this afternoon. So she asked, I still don't get why Tierney and Smith Rowe didn't play more. I think Smith Rowe, like we said, he's been fit like most of the second half of the season. I think it's just he was not there. He was not ready. He's retrained to a new position, and he's given him the Martinelli treatment when Martinelli came back from injury, and doesn't want to aggravate or risk his future career, and just take time with him. I think he'll come good. He'll be fine. With
Same.
Tierney, are there times when you thought he could have played when he didn't? There was times when Zinchenko maybe didn't look so good defensively, but is it just that like we give up that part of the pitch on purpose because of how much control we add to our game and how much support Partey gets when Zinchenko plays in that inverted role? Like, I think Zinchenko, like, he changed our game, right? If you look at Arsenal when we finished fifth and Arsenal when we finished second, we bought a centre forward and a left back basically.
Yeah,
So
and that,
like, I don't see how
rewind to
Tierney
last.
gets in over that.
No, and rewind to last summer. None of us were saying we need to upgrade Tierney. It just goes to show like the level that Zinchenko's
Tierney's
taken
like
us to.
a Champions League level fullback. Like, there's nothing
He is
wrong with him
for the right team. I
for a
personally
system
am.
that uses a
Yeah,
fullback like that. Yeah,
I'm so at peace with how Tierney was used this season. I think he just doesn't suit how we play anymore. There were periods where I wanted us to try and tweak it so we had a traditional fullback and a wide forward would tuck in. But once it became clear that that wasn't going to happen, I made peace with it because Tierney is not technically secure enough for this Arsenal team being brutal about it. We've evolved past him, and that's where if we want to be the team that we're all hoping we can be, we have to get on board
make these
with these
difficult
sort of
decisions. And he's a
decisions.
fan
Yeah.
favorite. I'd like to think if we can get anything that's 30 million and above, I will consider that a success. If we sell it for 20 to 25 mil, I'll be pretty pissed. I'm not
So
going to lie.
can I add my 2 pence on that? How much did we sign him for? 25,
And
30?
it's, yeah, pretty much. But he's now got an extension, right? So he's got like 4 years on his contract.
Yeah.
So like we don't have to sell him, and we're gonna send him to a team that are trying to compete for Champions League. Like, nah, man, like we're not doing favors here. Like, you got to pay.
No,
We paid 50 mil for Jesus with 1 year left, so I'm
no.
sorry that they're gonna have to pay.
The reason I ask is I just think as Arsenal fans, we really
We
overvalue
do
how much our
overvalue our
players are
players,
worth.
and do you
And the
know what
reason
we
I
look
ask
at?
is
We
just,
look at bad signings from other clubs and use them as the milestone. We'll be like, oh
yeah,
look, these guys bought Solanke for 40 mil.
it's a
Well, yeah, that
one-off.
was a shit deal. That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
like
And also, the
that.
reason I asked was how much we signed him for. Would you say Tierney's period at Arsenal, just on what he's achieved and done for us, has inflated his value? I wouldn't say he's
So
done.
we signed him for 25 million pounds in 2019.
I don't think what he's done on the pitch has warranted him being a 40 million player.
I
I think
think it
we're.
has. I think it
Do you?
has. I think his
I
injuries
don't.
are what are the doubt. He's not played more than 20
That's all
league
part of the
games
package,
in a
right?
season. But in terms of when he actually plays, I think he's shown he's got it. But
Yeah. See,
when he plays is a problem.
I personally don't think he's a 40 million pound footballer, if I'm being
I'm not
honest.
saying 40. I said it's success if we get 30 mil
Yeah. No, but
plus. No,
because
plus
I've
is wishful thinking. 30 mil is probably the
yeah.
max we're going to get here.
I mean, and I do agree with people that say like we should be selling better. I just think like I don't know. I see Arsenal fans on Twitter saying anything less than 50 is a joke, and I'm like, if you
These
just
lot,
object,
plot. Yeah, they've
if you
lost the
just
plot.
objectively look at it, like what
But
has
they're
he
looking at
done
it not
to?
objectively. They're looking
Yeah,
at it as the a country owns Newcastle. It's the richest ownership in world sports. And even if they want to pretend it's some investment fund, really it's the crown prince who owns it and a nation state. So
yeah,
it's like we know they have money. So like, don't come to us with your tail between your legs with like, oh, poor old Newcastle, we don't have money. It's like, no, no, no. Like, you want him, then you pay for him. So I think they're just
yeah.
being, they're just maybe you're right. He's done nothing to show he's a 40 or 50 million player. Yeah,
Not
you are right.
nothing. I just no, it's
But
not
as in, like, to
nothing.
go to like double his
Yeah,
value. Come on, like the guy has not since he signed shown that he's worth double the price we paid for him.
and that's the kind of point I was trying to
Yeah,
make. Yeah,
and
but
that's why
yeah,
we've also not seen him play more. Maybe. So the next question from Telia is: can you explain the hype with Declan Rice? I feel we could spend the money on a better player. So I think Arsenal were confident they could get him for 70 to 80 mil. It sounds like it might have to go up as high as 100 mil potentially, depending on who else is playing in there. Bayern and Tuchel want him. Other clubs want him. Um, I don't know, like, what if you want to say anything. I have actually a tweet up that talks about him, and I read this just a few days ago, and I thought it really resonated with me about what it is that Declan Rice does that maybe makes him worth that amount. But do you want to give like a high level opinion on, do
Yeah,
you
I
think
mean,
he's worth that much?
he for me is the one player I fucking want this summer. I think he will help with this reset and redefining how we play. I think we're clearly evolving into a team that is technically and physically dominant. And I think he comes and ticks both boxes. I think a lot of people lazily call him a defensive midfielder. I think he is far from it. I think he can play the 6. I think he can play the 8, but I think we're going to evolve next season. I don't think we're going to be just a team that has a sitting 6 and 2 8s either. What's that's going to be, I have no idea. But he has got so many attributes that I think will help take us to the next level in duels, and the way he drives with the ball.
I was
I
going to say,
think
we don't have many players in our midfield that win duels. We
no,
need a stronger midfield, and he is a duel
yeah.
monster.
And if I'm just kind of plug and play right now, and I know I'm saying I think our system's going to tweak, but because I don't know what that's going to be, just to use this season's example, in Xhaka's role, he would be disgusting. Like, he does so many runs from the left-hand side into the box, and that's in a very, well, a struggling West Ham team. I know they're in the Conference League final, but he's the one player I really want, because I think he will elevate us to a new level, and I think he brings technical level and physicality as well.
I think what's
And I think
interesting is, in the past we've said we don't get stuck on names and we want profiles.
I'm
But
stuck
I
on this
agree
name.
with you. Yeah, I agree with you. This is the guy we need. We need to go out and get him, and everything else that comes after is secondary. Like, he is number one target for me.
Yeah, same. What was the
In terms
tweet
of
out of
just to talk
interest?
about, yeah, so it's just, you're talking about versatile players, right? And I think this maybe answers Delia's question a bit more, which is, so these guys are saying, like, he's Champions League level at centre back, at 6, at left centre mid. He's Europa League level at left back and right centre mid. He's a dual monster that can cover 60 yards of space. He has all-timer intelligence off the ball, strong leadership qualities, world-class dribbling and carrying, world-class availability, and just playing every game, every minute, pass volume and variety with conservativeness. And what this guy was saying is, name me one former player that has this, like Rice.
Yeah,
Any former
it's
player
true.
in history.
He's
And they
he's a
said he doesn't
unicorn.
exist. They said he doesn't exist. Even if you can find one, it's a historical level player. Fernando Redonda, maybe. This is an
Yeah,
all-time player waiting.
that's a great tweet. Can you send me that,
He
actually?
was like, and he goes, you pay the money, not just to get him, but to make sure others can't. Like,
And
this is someone who is being held back by where he is right now, not
that's a
by
great
how
tweet.
his own level. Like, he
The
is ready. Like, he's a leader. Like, we're losing Xhaka, a leader right now, the
Yeah.
most vocal player in our dressing room. This is a man who can come in and he's at captain level
Yeah, availability
immediately.
is such a big thing as well. Like,
Availability,
how
my
many
God,
times
yeah.
have we been let down by Tierney, Tommy, Party? Like, yeah, that's such a big underrated factor, I think, as well.
But
Yeah,
I just
that's a
wanted to
great
read
tweet.
that out because, for me, like, I've always, like, thought there's been a lot of hype about Declan Rice, and I think over the years, West Ham fans have always told me what they thought was special in him. So what I would say, Delia, maybe next time we see Dan, FPL fella at a meet, we should ask him how high
He's
he thinks the
twerking for him to
ceiling
go to
is.
Bayern.
Yeah, I want to know how high Dan thinks the ceiling is for Declan, because he's watched him for a lot longer. But I think with Declan, it's all the off the field stuff too, and what he
Yeah,
brings. So we said that Zinchenko and Jesus brought a change in mentality in this club. They talked
yeah.
to them about challenging for a title in preseason. They were laughed at, and people started to believe. I think Declan's another one of those type of players. He comes in and immediately he demands utmost perfection from everyone in that
It
squad.
raises the
And
level again. Yeah,
yeah. And the fact that he's in the Premier League already here, ready to go. Honestly, that's why I'm so stuck on the name, because normally I just want a
same.
profile.
I never get stuck on names either, but I am on this one.
It's just there's no one, like, I can't think of a player today who does all the things he does, let alone historically, which is what this tweet was trying to get at, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's just his intelligence. Like, oh man, I really hope we fucking get him.
same.
And then just to wrap up and get out of here, then. So we're just at 1 hour, 4 minutes in. I'm going to ask, if you've enjoyed the episode, please do hit that like button. If we, made you enjoy the end of the season despite how it capitulated at the end, hopefully we put a smile back on your face and reminded you that good times are ahead for Arsenal fans in the years to come, hopefully.
Yeah, we're
But
set for the years ahead. I've also got
I'm
50 quid on
excited.
us to win the league next year, FYI.
Nice. You are a confident guy. Before we go, I just wanted to put up one last comment from Dream Team Professor for you, talking about what Stones has been doing in midfield and maybe whether White could be doing that job at times. I think that's a really interesting point. And, you know, at the moment, like White could do that, right? Like because we're talking about buying like Sasha Bowie or Fresneda, like we might get another right back. And at that point, if Saliba and Gabriel are in centre back, what happens to White if there's a specialist right back brought in? Is
Yeah,
it that
and
he
this
can play that inverted role? You know, is he the one who plays that kind of the Rodri and Stones role that they have? Is it like Partey and White? Could that
I
work?
think so. And this is what I'm no expectations for next season. I think we're all going to get re-educated in pre-season. I think we're going to see some weird shit that we've not seen as Arsenal fans before. But to the actual question, yeah, I absolutely think White could do that very well as well.
Yeah, and just Delia, we've brought you into this so that you're emotionally invested as well. So if we don't land Declan Rice, I'm just trying to split the
We'll delete
heartache
this
amongst
pod.
as many of us as possible. I'll fucking delete the whole thing. Yeah. All right, guys. So good to see you as well, Mike. Thank you for tuning in, my man. Good to
Cheers,
see
man.
you. I'm glad you all had fun at Gaming 39. I'm gutted I couldn't make it. Sounds like you were in charge of the fantasy points, Clayton.
I was, yeah. Well, I was helping to total them up and doing the tweets and stuff, and then had a big sesh with Big Mike. So yeah, that was good. I think I was with him till like 3 a.m. in Pop World.
Oh man, I really missed out. It was my sister's wedding, so it was like the one excuse that I could, like the only valid excuse to not be
Yeah.
there this year. I
No, it
went
was
from being
brilliant.
water boy to not being there at all. So next year,
Right.
hopefully,
Next season,
they
you'll
can
be the
continue to
gaffer.
raise more. Yeah, if anyone who doesn't know and is in the FPL community, they're raising money for Street Child United with a charity match annually. Um, they've raised over 8K so far this year. So do look for Game Week 39 FPL if you want to still get some donations in for the charity and good cause. Otherwise, we were the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. We have done the season review, and I feel like it was therapy, long needed therapy that we talk about.
And
We've
just
missed
before we
this.
jump out, obviously over the course of the whole season, thanks for everyone's support. Like we obviously started this probably around this time last
It was
season, right?
almost a
This
year
time
ago,
last
right?
year,
Yeah.
yeah. And like it's grown quite a lot. We've got our own little community of people that regularly check in with us. Like we made new friends, and it's been so nice chatting about Arsenal every week. And I know we fell off a cliff towards the end of the season, but I don't think that will happen again next year. Like we were both transitioning different jobs and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you to everyone for the support. It's been really fun, and like what a season it's been. None of us thought we'd be title challengers within 4 years when Arteta took over. So let's enjoy it. Enjoy the process. TM. Enjoy the journey, and yeah, thank you very much to everyone. Honestly, we're so humbled by your support. It's been amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the main thing that I just want to reiterate is like we really appreciate all the support. Everyone who tunes in lives, take time out their day to be here in the chat, keep us company, and just talk about everything Arsenal, whether it's the good times or the bad times. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of you over the summer, maybe for some kind of activities. Who knows? But we'll put some content plans together. I think after a break. So we'll take a short break and then we'll look at how we want to get started once the transfer season really and truly gets underway.
Yeah, we'll get ready for our quadruple chasing season next year. Up the Arsenal.
This is the one. Up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners, and we'll see you all
Cheers,
next
bro.
time.